Okay, so I'm doing a follow-up video on what happened in Los Angeles today in MacArthur Park, where we saw 9 federal agencies, including the IRS for some reason, as well as LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department, essentially invade MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. And because no one was there, they essentially held a parade in riot gear. This show of force was an abject failure in every sense of the word. Initially, it was terrifying to see for me. Unmarked military and federal and local law enforcement stomping through a fucking park in Los Angeles. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Armored vehicles, many of them were on horseback. All of them were in full military riot gear with guns. On the ground in an American city for a show of force to the local civilian population. A show of force of the United States military and federal law enforcement agencies and local law enforcement, a show of force to the local civilian population. It was meant to intimidate. But because no one was there, it was just a parade. Couple things. First of all, the number of people that I am seeing saying, well, this was to distract from the Epstein memo that was released last night. If you think that 9 federal agencies, including the U.S. Army and local law enforcement, put this together in 12 hours, that's a bad take. They have been working on this for a very long period of time. My theory, it's also not to distract from the big beautiful bill or whatever. They have been planning this for a very long period of time to take place today because they expected the big beautiful bill to be signed last Friday by Donald Trump because that was the deadline, and it was signed. I think they released the stuff about the Epstein, the DOJ released the stuff about the Epstein memos, and I did a couple videos on that tonight earlier. I think they released that memo last night knowing that this was going to happen today. This was not planned to be a distraction from that. This was already on the books. And I think that played influence as to when they were going to release that Epstein memo. Anyway, reporter Ken Klippenstein, you can find him at kenklippenstein.com. He got the documents from the Army, the planning documents. This operation was called Operation Excalibur, and I'm going to read the executive summary in this video from Operation Excalibur executive summary from the U.S. Army North 5th Army. So, that's the first I'm hearing that the U.S. Army is involved now on the streets of Los Angeles. However, this was called Operation Excalibur. It was meant to be a show of force. And so we're going to go through the executive summary. The executive summary. This is a document from the Army. And the first section right up here, civil analysis, there's a map of the area. There's a map of the area with some landmarks underneath. The first landmark that's listed, Consulate General of Mexico in Los Angeles. We'll come back to that in a moment. It starts off with civil analysis, civilian population density in target area and potential for collateral damage. High density of civilians in a complex urban terrain, moderate to high potential for collateral damage if threat activity requires use of lethal force in a kinetic engagement. That's a fancy way of saying you guys might have to shoot and kill civilians. But there was nobody there. There was nobody in the park. Underneath that map, it says population. Local population density is high. Estimate nearly 20,000 people live in the adjacent blocks to MacArthur Park. Majority of buildings are mixed use, commercial residential with medium to high density. Here's something that I found fascinating. Local law enforcement. Department of Homeland Security will provide 2 hours notice to LAPD, and LAPD will provide law enforcement response unrelated to immigration enforcement. Important landmarks surrounding this park. Consulate General of Mexico. There's a Department of Public Social Services building. Charles White Elementary School. MacArthur Elementary School. Grandview Retirement Center. Harold McAllister High School. Soledad Charter School. So 4 of the 7 landmarks listed are schools. 1 is a retirement center. And 1 is the Consulate General of Mexico. Mission. Here's the mission on order. 1st 18th Cavalry Squadron will provide static interagency site protection, mounted mobile security, the horses, and Joint Force Land Component Command. Reserve support to Customs and Border Patrol and supporting federal agencies, whose intent at MacArthur Park is to demonstrate through a show of presence the capacity and freedom of maneuver of federal law enforcement within the Los Angeles Joint Operations Area. They are demonstrating a show of force, and they are demonstrating the capacity and freedom of movement that the United States military has inside of an American city. Purpose. The purpose of this operation is to enable and protect the execution of joint federal law enforcement missions in a high visibility urban environment while preserving public safety and demonstrating federal reach and presence. Intimidation. We can come in and do whatever the fuck we want to do in your city, in an urban area, and you're not going to do or say jack shit about it. Intimidation of blue cities in blue states. Amazing. They were ordered to not restrict pedestrian movement. Okay. Do not conduct law enforcement activities. Detain individuals only in response to an imminent threat and transfer to law enforcement as soon as possible, because the United States Army is not permitted legally to conduct law enforcement activities on U.S. soil, because Donald Trump has not invoked the Insurrection Act, which is the only legal way for military personnel to conduct law enforcement activities on U.S. soil. Comply with the rules for the use of force. Operate IAW's standing rules for the use of force. Use force only when authorized and necessary. Civilian movement to remain unrestricted. No civilian harm. Interactions with local population should be professional, disciplined, and in accordance with mission guidance and the rules of engagement. Potential civil unrest is deterred or contained in the supported area. That's part of their mission. Fuck. I mean, that's the executive summary from the U.S. Army. We have the concept of the operation. We have the threat situation. And this operation involved ATF, Customs and Border Patrol, DEA, FBI, FPS, HSI, ICE, USMS, IRS. For some reason, the IRS was there. LAPD, and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So you can find this article at KenKlippenstein.com. It is called Exclusive Operation Excalibur in Los Angeles was Show of Force and an Abject Failure. Today was a complete shit show of incompetence. The next time is not going to be incompetent. And they're going to do more of this. And they're going to start doing it right now.